I can feel the brush of angels' wings and the peace that fills this space. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Good morning. So lovely to see you all this morning. I know we'll probably have a couple more filtering up from downstairs. Maybe, or maybe, yeah? Yeah, okay. So good morning. Welcome this morning. We have a fun day in store. We have as our guest speaker today, Reverend Georgie Richardson, which is always wonderful to have her with us. And as you probably know, because most of you have brought food, I think we're having a potluck after the service, so please stay. There's plenty of food, even if you didn't bring anything. And then after that, we're going to be having our annual membership meeting. So stay and we'll experience some community together. So first thing this morning, I'm going to light the Christ light candle. And that, of course, is representative. As I was sitting at the piano, I had the phrase come to mind, I am the light of the world. And this is a remembrance of that sometimes our light may dim, sometimes it may flicker, but it's always there. It's always there. So let's open with prayer, shall we? Sweet Spirit, what a blessed, beautiful day. Every morning I wake up, I open my eyes, I say, thank you, God. Thank you for a new day. Thank you for the sunshine, for the rain, for the clouds, for the wind, whatever may be present. And today we have that beautiful sun. And as I was driving over, I was noticing the gorgeous trees and the changing of the colors and feeling that change in the air. And so today we are blessed to come together to possibly learn something new, so we open our mind. To love a little more, we open our hearts. And together, even if just for a while in community, we open our arms to each other. And we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. So let's sing a song today. If you'd like to take out your hymnal, it's number 331, but we're just going to do the first verse, maybe like 3 times, so you'll get the hang of it and you probably won't need the lyrics much. It's called I Am Walking in the Light. 331. Here we go. I am walking in the light, in the light, in the light. I am walking in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. And that's it, so let's do it again. I am walking in the light, in the light, in the light. I am walking in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. One more time. I am walking in the light, in the light, in the light. I am walking in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. Very nice. I get my exercise today. Back and forth, back and forth. So we have our prayer box here. So if you would like to submit a prayer for yourself, for someone that you know, for a circumstance, please put it in the prayer box. And we send these to Unity Village once a month, and I know our beloved Nellie takes care of that for us. So it's here, or you can put them back in the corner as well. And I think for announcements today, all we have is that, do we have more announcements?
I don't know. I have to look.
Okay.
There's a potluck.
I know there's a potluck.
And a meeting.
And a meeting, we got that.
Covered the potlucks in the meeting, that's what we're going to do.
Okay,
So we're good.
we're good, all right.
We're also announcing that next week you're here with Randy.
Oh, yes, I am. I'll be speaking next week with the fabulous Randy Burns on the keys. We always have fun together. Okay, we're moving right along this morning. Let's take out our October affirmations so that we can say this together. First, let's start with the one for Unity by the Sea. We love and care for Unity by the Sea, for it houses the sacred beings we are. And for ourselves, I love and care for my body, for it houses the sacred being I am. And now I think, is it Marcy? Are you going to read our daily word for us? Thank you.
I am free, I am unlimited. The lyrics to the hymn, I am free, I am unlimited, are regularly sung in spiritual centers of many faiths and denominations. They resonate on a universal level because they express an important truth in the simplest of words, a proclamation of spiritual freedom. I may encounter daily challenges with my work, relationships, finances, or any number of other elements of this human experience. My ego may immediately believe me to be trapped, forced into painful choices, shaped by the demands of others. I remember that I am infinite potential. I am always free. At such times, I hear my true self gently singing to me the truth. I am free. I am unlimited. There are no ties that bind me. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17.
Thank you, Marcy. So I'm going to do a song called I Am Light. You might sense a theme developing here. And I would love it if you would help me on the chorus, which is I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. We're going to get that phrase today before we leave here. Okay. So we're going to do the chorus first. You can hear it goes. I am light, I am light. That's it. Let's try it together. I am light, I am light. Couple more times. I am light, I am light. I encourage you to really feel those words. I am light, I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am not mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I've left behind. I am light, I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age, I'm not my race. My soul is light. I am 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 divinity divined. I am God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light. 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 Let's do it one more time. I am light. I am light. I am light.
Thank you, Lorena. Appreciate all of the wonderful job you do on finding just the right songs for us in the morning. Good morning, everyone. Jan, good to see you all here. Good to see you all here. It has been said that if we lost all of the Bible, with the exception of Matthew 5, 6, and 7, that we'd be fine. It's in Matthew 5, 6, and 7 that you find the Lord's Prayer. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Ye are the salt of the earth, and ye are the light of the world as well. So we just finished singing Walking in the Light. That's a familiar song for most of us. Lots of times, if there's a children's church, you got the kids walking in and out with that song. Well, I want to take that line, we are walking in the light, and I want to change one word in it, one little 2-letter word. Okay? So I'm going to take the word in, and I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to put the word as in there. I am walking as the light. And that changes the whole feel, the whole concept of that line. I am walking as the light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our beloved Lorena to come up, and she's going to play it for us, and we're going to stand up because I want you to feel it, okay? And we're going to sing I am walking as the light, I am talking as the light, I am singing as the light. You ready? Okay, on your feet. Come on. Feel it now. Feel it.
I am walking as the light, as the light, as the light. I am walking as the light, is the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God. Talking. I am talking as the light, as the light, as the light. I am talking as the light, as the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God.
One more singing.
I am singing as the light, as the light, as the light. I am singing
as the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God. Okay, thanks, Lorena. You may sit down now. Now, did you feel that any differently than when we sat there and sang, I am walking in the light? Do you feel the aliveness of that idea? Okay, I want to unpack that sentence just a little bit further. The light is walking. Now, Jesus said, you are the light of the world. Okay, now get this. This is really crucial that we understand this. The light is walking. The light, you, each one of you, you are cause. The action is the walking, the thinking, the singing, the talking, the praying, the resting, whatever it might be. You are first cause. All the rest of it, the thoughts, the words, the actions, the relationships, the circumstances, the situations, are the effects. Okay, now just tuck that inside of yourself for a moment, and I'm going to shift here, okay? There was a woman, a sweet little woman, probably in her 60s someplace, and she always had a smile on her face, and she always had a kind word for everybody. She lived in a small town, and she usually walked the same route every morning. She would take her morning walk, and this morning was no different. She was walking along, and she had her purse in her hands, and as she was walking down the street, there was a fellow that was kind of leaned up against the building about half block down, and he saw her coming, and he looked like he was pretty much down on his luck. You know, he looked pretty disheveled and he looked pretty tired. And so when she got close enough, he stepped out in front of her and he said, "Ma'am," he said, "can you spare some change? I haven't eaten for a couple of days and I'm really hungry." And she said, "Well, of course I can." And so she took her purse and she opened it up. Now, she didn't have very much in it. She had a hanky in it and her wallet, and she had a gemstone in there as well. Now, in a natural way, he just glanced down and he saw what was in her purse, and he saw that gemstone, and he said, "Oh, ma'am, could I have that? Could I have that gemstone?" "Oh," she said, "you want that?" She said, "Certainly you can have that." She reached in, she picked it up, and she put it in his hand. And she said, "Now you have a good day, young man." And off she went. Now, the next day, when she took the same walk, he was waiting for her. And he stepped out, and he held open his hand, and he had the gemstone in his hand. And he said, "Ma'am, I want to give this back to you." But she said, "Why? I gave it to you. You could sell that. I know it's worth some money." He said, "Yeah, I know that. But you have something else that I would rather have." And she said, "Well, what might that be?" And he said, "I want what you have inside of you that let you so freely give this valuable gemstone to me." Now, I don't know if that story is true. I don't know the genesis of that story. I don't even know where I got that story. But we ministers collect stories, okay? And anytime I think that there's a message in this story, then I hang on to the story, and it comes up at the right time. So I'm going to tell you another story. It's similar, but it's not the same. I know it's true because it happened to a member of my family. It happened to my great-aunt Martha. I was born and raised in Butte, Montana. And Butte was a mining town, and it's kind of nestled at the base of the Rocky Mountains, kind of in the foothills a little bit, so it's kind of got this topography of up and down like we had in Sonora. In Butte, the uptown is where, like the main post office and the courthouse and some department stores and the couple of theaters and so forth. That's all in the uptown. And then as the ground goes down, there's an area a ways down, a few miles down, that is quite flat. And they actually call it the which is very ingenious, and that's where my folks had their house, and that's where I grew up. Now, north of Uptown, there was Walkerville and Centerville, and then over to the east a little bit, there was a little town called Meaderville, which is no longer there because when they opened the open pit mining, they totally gobbled up Meaderville, and it's no longer there. Aunt Martha lived in Centerville. She had a little house, it was one bedroom, little rooms. She had been married 3 times, and her husbands had all predeceased her. Her last husband had a little bit of money, and so they did some traveling. And in their travels overseas and so forth, she gathered some treasures together. She found silver candlestick holders and cut glass vases and real pretty things that were not very plentiful in Butte, Montana at that time. And so she had them in her front room, kind of had them out on various tables and so forth. Now, at the time of this particular incident, my Aunt Martha was in her 80s, and it was November, and it's cold in Butte, Montana in November. She got up during the night to use the bathroom, and as she walked out of her bedroom, she saw a man standing in the hallway in her home. He had a hat on, and he had a long coat on, and he had a pillowcase in his hands, and one of her candlestick holders was sticking out of the top of the pillowcase. And of course, he just froze. And she walked right past him, and she said, "Good evening, young man. When I have to get up in the middle of the night, I often go into the kitchen and put the kettle on and have a cup of tea and some cookies. Would you care to join me?" Well, of course, he was kind of blown away. He didn't know what to do with that situation because she walked right by him and went to put on the kettle. So he followed her into the kitchen. And he said, "Lady, you don't get it. I've come here to rob you." "Oh," she said, glancing over her shoulder at him, she says, "You can't be a thief because I'm going to give you anything in my home that you would like. But why don't you sit down and let's have a cup of tea and a couple of cookies." And so they did. And she heard his story. He was 16 years old. His dad had been killed in a mine accident a couple of months before. He had an 8-year-old sister, and his mother, who takes in sewing and mending and so forth to augment the family income, was in bed, very ill with pneumonia. So after a couple of cups of tea, Aunt Martha said to him, "Well, young man, it has been nice getting to know you, but I am an old woman, and I need my rest. And so I'm going to go back to bed. You help yourself to anything in my home that you want. Just close the front door tight when you leave, please." And then she did. She went back to bed and went back to sleep. In the morning, when she got up, she found the pillowcase sitting on one of the chairs in the front room, and all of her treasures were back on the tables in the front room area there. The only thing that was missing were the cookies. He had taken the cookies. Now, we wouldn't know about this story at all, except that Aunt Martha and her neighbor and my grandmother all went to the same church, okay? And so one day, my grandmother, her name was Letty, she was visiting with the neighbor, and the neighbor said, "Letty, who is that young man that Martha has doing all those odd jobs in her yard? Fixed her gate, is raking the leaves up. Who is he?" My grandmother says, "I haven't got the slightest idea, but I will find out." And so, of course, she asked Aunt Martha, and Martha told her the story, and thus the family has the story of what happened to Aunt Martha that night. Now, both of these women, at the time of the incident, were expressing from verity consciousness. They were expressing as the light. As the light. Now, that word verity may be new for you. It means true nature. So just hang on to that for a minute, and I'm going to pull all this together, I promise you. But I am going to take a side step, so hang on here with me and step to the side with me in this dance we're doing today. Dr. Paul Hasselbeck is a dean at the Unity Institute, and he has written the third version of Unity's metaphysics. It's entitled Heart-Centered Metaphysics, and it explains all of Unity's teachings. In it, Dr. Hasselbeck describes the 4 stages of consciousness that we go through in this spiritual evolution that we are involved in through this human condition that we are part of. And I'm going to go through those with you in just a moment. But I want to bring in another well-known writer, and his name is Dr. Hawkins. He wrote a book called Power versus Force, which is an excellent book, Power versus Force. In it, he has like a map of our consciousness, but I'm going to call it a ladder today because it serves my purposes a little bit more. And I'm going to meld the teachings of these 2 men together and maybe help us get a little understanding of the process of our journey. You're turning your back on me, Orion. Does that mean you're bored? This is Orion, everyone. He's my great peer.
He's lovely.
Now, Dr. Hasselbeck has these 4 stages of consciousness, but there's quite a jump between one stage and another. And Abraham would tell you, you cannot leap from one stage to the next, okay? It is a process. So we need to know what is this process. So if we're thinking about a ladder between stages, for instance, Dr. Hawkins would name the rungs of the ladder. They are our attitudes, our beliefs, our perceptions, our preferences that we think are so precious to us at one stage of consciousness until we begin to shift a little bit. Okay? Now, we've all experienced all of these stages of consciousness, and we do slip and slide back and forth a little bit between them. Rarely do we get stuck for a whole lifetime in one stage, but it does happen. It does happen to people. Thankfully, we have something called the entelechy of our soul that continually is stretching us and pushing us and pulling us and coaxing us and encouraging us to let go and move on okay? And then we begin to see things just a little different, okay, than we did before. And this is a shift in consciousness. When we can move through all of these levels and move to the next stage, then we have had an actual shift in consciousness. And that's what we're really looking for, that we can let go of some of this stuff and experience that kind of shift in consciousness. Now, for instance, the first stage is victim. That's the first stage of consciousness, okay? We've all been there, so we all are familiar what it's like to be in victim consciousness. It's a stage where everything is to me. We feel we have very little control in our lives and events. Everyone is kind of out to get us. This is not a friendly universe because everybody is after me. And the rungs of that ladder are the attitudes, for instance, when we are in that victim consciousness. They are shame and blame and apathy and fear, and frankly, it is a miserable place to be in. It's a sticky place too. It's not easy to kick that victim consciousness because we see so clearly that everybody's after us and everybody's out to get us, and so it's hard to let go of that. We don't see, or we can't seem to see, anything other than the bad stuff that's happening to me, okay, when we are in that victim consciousness. Now, eventually, with the assistance of that, the entelechy of our soul, we begin to shift, and we begin to awaken. And when we start shifting our attitudes, and we step into courage, we begin to feel empowered. And then we step onto the stage of victor. Now we're on the stage of victor. It's by me. Now I realize I am the common denominator with everything that's happening in my life. Guess what? There I am right in the middle of it. I'm the common denominator. And I do have some say over the events in my life. I may not be able to control the events, but I can control how I see them, and I can control how I respond to these events. It's a much more comfortable place to hang out, being on that victor stage. And we do hang out there for quite a while, until we begin to get, once again, pushed and pulled and coaxed and encouraged to move further. The universe does not like us resting on our laurels for our entire life. Right, Lorena? Right. She knows that. So, now I lost my place here. So the rung of acceptance and love then brings us to the third stage of consciousness, which is vessel consciousness. In me. So we had to me, okay, and we had by me. Now we have in me. Oh, now we've got a concept that God is not that guy up there in the sky that I was taught when I was a child. Instead, Spirit, the living Spirit of God, lives within me. The Spirit is within me. I can call upon my divine nature, and I can ask for guidance. I can pray for someone. I can trust that there is something greater and bigger and wiser than me, and that something I call God. Okay? Many of us stay there the rest of our lives. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that if that is where we want to stay. It is a very comfortable place to be. In fact, what we need to really understand is that every one of these stages, when we're in it, that's where we need to be. Because we're learning whatever we need to learn from each one of these stages. Even if we are in the victim consciousness, once we finally shake loose of that and go to the next stage, to the victor stage, it was like, boy, did I learn a lot when I was down there in that victim consciousness. For sure. Okay. So this vessel place is very comfortable to be in that. God is my friend. God, he or she lives within me. I can talk to God, and all is well in my life. I feel good. I feel comforted. I feel like I have a friend that I never can be apart from. Wherever I am, God is. We really feel that at a deeper level. It's not just a concept, we actually feel it. But for some of us, that is not the end of the line. Okay? There is one more stage to go. And when we're ready, we can experience the stage of verity consciousness. Is me. You know, religious science has a little ditty that they say, God in me, as me, is me. Okay. And the rung of the ladder that we take to get there is joy and peace and enlightenment. And this is true Christ consciousness, when we can be in that verity place. Do we stay there all the time? I don't know. I think we slip around, probably back to vessel, sometimes to victor, you know, and then, but we've known it. We've experienced it. We know it's there. It's not like the veil dropped. You know, sometimes we have a glimpse of something and we say, oh, I see it. I know it. And bam, it's gone. The veil drops back down again, and we're on the other side of it again. And it's very frustrating. But when that veil lifts enough for us to experience it, then we know we've got a hold of it, and we can get back there again and live from that place of consciousness. That is the true Christ consciousness we talk about in unity. It's where we experience true oneness. It's not just a word or a concept anymore. It is who we are. It is our true nature, and we are expressing ourselves, and we are living ourselves from that stage. Okay, I want to share one more story with you before I begin to wrap this up a little bit. Do any of you watch America's Got Talent? Okay, so some of you do. It's a wonderful show. They call it AGT, America's Got Talent. It's wonderful because to me it's a feel-good show. It's really a feel-good show. Well, it just finished up a season here not very long ago. Goes through all these contestants and weeds them out until they have the semifinals, and then they have the finals. Well, all the way through there was a woman by the name of Mandy Harvey, who was one of the contestants. Mandy had a situation in her life that so clearly outlines all four of these stages that I wanted to quickly share her story with you. And if any of you take the Science of Mind magazine, there is an article in there about her. Mandy has been singing from the time she's 4 years old. Okay, she was singing in a choir at 4 years old. That's all her whole life was music and singing. And so she grew through school, and she's 19 years old, and she's in university, and she's a major medical, and I didn't say that right, music major, and her life is just going exactly the way she wants it to go, and everything is wonderful. And at 19, she got an ear infection. And the ear infection destroyed the nerves in her ears and left her totally deaf. Totally deaf. It's pretty hard to sing, I would think, when you are totally deaf. She dropped out of school. She moved back to her parents, and she was in victim consciousness totally. She was mad at God. She cried all the time. She isolated. She stayed home. She didn't want anything to do with anybody. Her folks were very, very loving, very supportive, and her dad let her get away with this for about 2 years. About 2 years. And then he said, well, there might be something you can do. And I'm sure she was pretty resistant to that right at first. And so she said, well, what's that? And he said, why don't you go to school and learn sign language and learn how to read lips? And she did. She did. Okay, so we're making progress now. Now we're at that victor stage. Something happened to her, but she's taking charge of how she's handling it, okay? A couple more years went by, and Dad suggested that they begin to play music together and sing together. And I'm sure that there was more resistance to that, because how could she do that? She cannot hear herself. She can't even hear if she's on the right note or the right pitch. So he got like a big bass guitar that had a lot of vibration to it, okay? So her body could start feeling the vibration. And then she got a little box, a little black box, that every time she hit a note, and if she was on pitch, a green light came on. And she would sing the song as long as the green light came on. And once the green light didn't come on, for a certain note, she'd go back to the beginning of the song. And she'd do it over and over and over again until she sang it all the way through with the green light all the way through. She has now moved to vessel consciousness, okay? She said, I had to find the place in my body where the tone lived. Okay, that's vessel consciousness. Then she applied to AGT, and she was accepted as a candidate. She went all the way through to the semifinals. She came in, I think it was third. She did not win the $1 million. Somebody else did. But she went all the way. In the semifinals, every time she sang in one of the competitions, she played a little mandolin and sang. But in the semifinals, she sang, I can't remember the name of the song. Do you, Paula? Okay. It was a beautiful song, but she signed it all the way through, which increased the beauty of that song. It sang in my head for well over an hour after she was finished. She was in verity consciousness when she did that, her true nature. So that piece of her life, I can very well clearly see the 4 stages of consciousness that she went through during that period of time. Now, you might ask me if there is a fast lane through this process, okay? And I'm going to tell you, yes, there is. There's a fast lane. And the fast lane is an attitude of gratitude. An attitude of gratitude. Next month when I am with you, it will be the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So we're very quickly moving into that holiday season. Here just in a couple of weeks we'll be in the month of November. Okay? So I'm going to put a challenge out to you all. I did this to Paula and her mom when we were living in Sonora here a year or so ago. I put a great big sheet of paper on the front of the refrigerator and I called it, I am grateful for. Okay, and I started writing, didn't say anything to them, just let them know it was there. Pretty soon I noticed Paula over there writing a couple of them. Pretty soon her mom got up there and wrote a few more. And we had that all filled by the time we had our turkey for Thanksgiving. So I'm going to put that out to you as kind of a challenge for you. And bring it, if you actually do this, bring it when I'm here the 3rd week of November. And we'll see how many of you did this. If you are constantly conscious of the blessings in your life, you cannot be griping about what isn't there or what's wrong or how bad this is or whatever it is, because you're training your consciousness to always look for the good. The gold dust is what Catherine Ponders calls it. She says there's gold dust in that. And there's gold dust in that. When you begin to concentrate every day, you know, like Lorena said this morning when she was on her way in, all the colors that are changing, the beautiful sun that was out there. It is so gorgeous here in Oregon. And I have to tell you, one of the top things that I'm grateful for is being back in Oregon and back here, and so I can talk to all of you and so forth. I'm also very grateful that I found unity almost 30 years ago, and it is my way of life, because it is a powerful way of life. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you being here. I'm grateful that Paula drives me every Sunday when I come over here. And I'm always very grateful when Lorena has the time to be able to be the music person and we share the platform. So I have many things that I'm going to put on that piece of paper that's going back up on the refrigerator that I am grateful for. I think that's all I want to say to you today. I hope that it has been somewhat helpful, but if you don't go away with anything else, go away with the challenge, okay? Begin to focus on the blessings in your life. So let's take it into a little bit of meditation right now and see if we can stir up some of those. So I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes if that is comfortable. And Lorena's going to play some music for us. And if it's comfortable to keep your feet flat on the floor, do that. And then your body energy just moves with no cross points. It just flows through you. And let's take a deep breath together. And now let it go. Take another deep breath, breathing in. And let it go. Jesus told us, "You are the light of the world." And even though he said it to a group of people 2,000 years ago, it is as true today for you and I as it was back then. We are pure light. We are the light of the world. And then he went on to say, no one lights a lamp and puts it under a bushel. They set it on a lampstand so the whole house can be illuminated. And that's our house of consciousness, my friends. And so when we start telling ourselves throughout the day, I am walking as the light, I am reading as the light, I am cooking as the light, and let that begin to be our mantra. It lights that lamp inside of us, that light inside of us. It turns it up, just like a rheostat. It turns it up. And our whole consciousness is bathed in light. And we begin to see things in a new way. We begin to experience things in a much more positive feeling of well-being. And so, sweet Spirit, we would request this morning that we be reminded throughout the day that we are the light. And through an attitude of gratitude, as we bless everything in our life, we just keep turning up that rheostat until our whole consciousness, our whole body is illuminated and enlightened, filled with the light of Spirit. And now, just while Lorena continues to play for a moment or two, let us go into the silence. I'll stop speaking, and you just speak to the Lord God of your being within yourself. Thank you, dear God, for this opportunity to be here today. Thank you for reminding me that I am walking as the light. And so it is. And so now just take another deep breath and begin to feel yourself moving into your body. And when you can feel the pew that you are sitting on and you are ready to open your eyes, please do so.